Hi, WordNerds!
Hi.
We're live! Welcome to the Sunday special. We're here together. We are not photoshopped. This is real life. So,
Prove
this
it.
is exciting.
Each other's faces. I don't believe.
You can tell because my camera doesn't like that there's two of us, and so it keeps trying to focus. Today we're going to be talking about rejection and dejection, the awful reality of the fact that you will get rejected by someone in your lifetime, and it will be sad, but it will also be okay. So,
Specifically with the writing twist and less a romantic twist. But
yeah, you'll
It
probably
probably-
get romantically rejected too.
This can apply to any part of your life.
But we don't want to talk about your love lives.
Yes.
That'd be creepy.
not yet. We don't know each other that well.
Yeah,
Yet.
maybe
Keep
someday.
watching.
So we've got an awesome article that Kaylin found that we're going to use kind of as a loose structure to help us stay on target. Do you have that pulled up?
I did. I don't anymore.
I think I have it pulled up.
Okay. Yes, I do still have it pulled up.
Okay. We're not prepared. Yeah. So.
Okay. So, okay, I had it. I have so many tabs open.
Okay, so the first part is that, like, rejection is going to happen. Let's talk a little bit about all the different ways you can and probably will get rejected in your lifetime.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, but it's not just the agent. Rejection will keep coming, and you have to keep overcoming.
Mm-hmm.
The query
So
is, I
once
think,
you
the
get
first
past
step of rejection.
Yeah,
The
once
first
you get past
major
that literary
milestone.
agent. I think that's the big one that most writers think of when they think of rejection, is that literary agent just saying, like, no, thank you, and then you get, like, 50
The
emails.
full
from literary
rejection.
And then you cry. But you also can experience it a little bit with, not necessarily, I personally wouldn't call this like straight up rejection. It's more like a criticism. But you do experience that a little bit with like beta readers and sometimes people on forums just being like, that's a dumb idea or something like that. Like you'll experience it all over the place.
Yeah.
And then
And
there's
even
also
after the
reviewers.
agent, even before that, like publishers, so you have an agent, but you don't necessarily get to that next step of right
You
away.
just shopped around for
Yeah.
too long, and slowly it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even in the extent of that, when you actually get published, there's always going to be the reader opinion of the book and of the work. So
There's gonna be
again, I guess that is kind of a form of rejection, but that's more criticism too. Like people are allowed to not like
Rejecting
things,
your
and it's
idea.
gonna suck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Announcing
one thing I liked in the article, like farther down, is it talks about like you're not entitled to a yes. You know, like just because you worked hard on it, like yeah, you've worked hard on it and it's your baby and you feel like you're entitled, but you're not. Like they're entitled to say no if they want to say no to you, and people are allowed to not like things, and you have to realize that.
Yeah, even like beyond reviews, like I might not even get that far if I know of a few series that I liked the first book, but the option for sequels never got picked up because it didn't sell well enough. That you know, it's not just the fans versus allegiant levels of rejection. Sometimes it just goes unnoticed, and this is your big moment, and no one really sees it or appreciates it. Or
Rejection is everywhere, and it sucks.
on that happy note, let's
Start on the bottom, the low.
Yeah. Hopefully by the end it won't be as depressing feeling.
Well, I think that's exactly, then that brings us into the first one really well, is that was one of the points I was going to make before I even found this article, is that you have to let yourself be upset for a little while. Because pretending that it didn't happen and pretending that you're okay is only going to bottle everything up inside until you explode one day. So you have to let yourself be upset. Curl up with Netflix and, you know, your favorite candy or, you know, ice cream, whatever.
Wine.
or all of the above.
a giant bottle, like a box of it. Straight from the tap. Be like, here we go. One of those days.
The WordNerds do not endorse alcoholism in
But we are all of
any way,
age.
shape, or form. We are all of age. Yeah, I definitely totally agree. I think it's important to let yourself take a minute to understand that, like, it's okay to be upset. because you did work really, really hard, and you did pour your heart and soul into whatever it is that you submitted to other people. And so it's okay to be bummed, and it's okay to be a little bit upset about it.
And also know that there sometimes are helpful notes inside of the criticism. So if you're getting rejected from literary agents, take a look at your manuscript. Maybe something's wrong with your query letter. Or if you're getting really poor reviews and they're bringing up the same thing over and over again, they're probably picking up something that's, you know, needs some fixing. And in your next book, learn from that. And don't only just see, like, this is terrible, terrible, because, I mean, there will be those negative rejections that have nothing but bad things that you will just have to kind of sit down with and just deal with it. But there will be other ones that are more helpful and like, okay, that hurts to hear, but you're right. I need to take a look at that. Yeah.
And I think this ties in really well with like the number 2 thing on the list. We'll put a link to this article.
It's a WikiHow, I think.
Yeah, this WikiHow in the doobly-doo.
I'll put it in the comments right now.
Yeah, Kaylin will do that. She's on top of things. But I think this ties in really well to the second thing, too, which is talking to a friend. I know the WordNerds, we like talk to each other, both when we have successes and also when we're just like feeling crushing failure. And it's awesome because it gives you a chance to be sad, to be pissed off because they just didn't understand my genius or something. But it gives you a chance to do that in a private way and in a way that will not damage your credibility in the future.
Right. Don't rant about any kind of rejection or bad review or criticism on Twitter or Tumblr or Facebook or any of your social media, because that just, no one likes people who whine and complain, and you're just going to come off as the jerk in the situation.
Yeah. Even if your Facebook is private, like someone will screen cap that sucker, and the second you get any sort of notoriety, they'll release it.
Right, especially when like you're in the beginning of querying, because you know that like when you query agents, they're going to look you up. They're going to look at your Twitter and everything that they can find you on Google. They're going to look and they're going to see what kind of person you are, and if not only if they see, oh, you know, she complains a lot about, you know, this specific type of, you know, rejection or whatnot on Twitter, but they can also see, like, oh, so she's been querying this for, like, a really long time and no one's picking it up, so maybe I'm going to pass, too. So that's another big reason why you should talk to a trusted friend, or if you don't have any writer friends to really talk to, the classic write a letter and put it in your desk trick.
Well, that's what I was going to say, where Erin's video from this week ties in really nicely. Writer friends, because, like, complaining to your family who doesn't necessarily understand the query process or what a beta reader is or any stage of it really, that they're going to be sympathetic, but they're not really going to get it. So having those writer friends who know like how hard it is to like send out those letters to agents, and that it's going to make such a huge difference.
Especially if they've been there with you like from the beginning of the project. Like I was working with Kelly when I started writing Ignite, like right after I finished it. We were talking back and forth, and she saw the very, 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 very rough first draft of it. And then I was trying to query agents, and it wasn't going well, and she was like, "It's okay, buddy. Keep your chin up. You can do it. It's a good book." And, you know, there are those moments when I'm like, is it even worth publishing at this point? Is this, like, much worse than I think it is? Because I think while you're writing, you are tough on yourself, but you do believe, hopefully, that, like, this is good. I'm doing something productive and worthwhile. And then
people on Twitter, they're like, oh, you know, this sucks. You know, obviously you have some type of confidence in yourself because you're still writing.
Yeah.
And embrace that when you have that.
Definitely, because it is good. And I know, like, sometimes I feel if I say that I feel that my writing is good, I'll be, like, too cocky or something. Right. But you know what? With how much rejection is out there, you're allowed to be a little bit cocky and believe in yourself and your writing.
Yeah.
Because once you get those rejections, you're going to start questioning, like, was it as good as I thought? Is it worth doing anything with? And you have to remember, like, why you loved it and why you worked so hard on it and kind of return to that.
Because, yeah, like what Kaylin was saying before about bottling it up and then exploding later, my fear is more you bottle it up and then just you stop trying. And because all this criticism is just weighing down on you, you stop having that drive to put yourself out there again. And for me, that's what I worry about with criticism, that I won't want to get up and write the next day.
Especially when it comes to like really negative reviews. Like I think we've been lucky we haven't had like terrible, terrible reviews or anything, but I would imagine if I got a slew of really, really negative reviews, or even some that were like nasty even, that would take a lot of wind out of my sails, and I might have to step away from writing for a while, and I would hate to do that. So it's like you got to build that tough skin before that could possibly happen. Also, like, hopefully it never happens, but still.
Yeah. And your friends will totally be there to be like, don't be dumb. You like this, and you're good at this.
It's good. So what are you talking about? Checking for comments.
Checking for comments.
We got Kaylin's comment. That's the only one we got. I'm going to like it up. The article is in the link. Yep. Yeah. There you go.
We're lost without Youre to like bring in the Wattpad people. Come on, guys. We're here every week. You know where to find us.
Every single week.
Except last week.
Except last week, because you knew that Mother's Day was
Yeah, Mother's Day came out of nowhere. Like,
whoops.
So we were trying to give you a taste of like rejection and dejection there. Like a little like you were looking forward to seeing us, but we weren't.
Too bad.
It was planned.
that's marketing right there. That's like
Definitely thought out, not a last minute scramble of, wait, who's going to be there then?
Wait, we're all hanging out with our mothers, so we're video chatting.
I think it would have just been me and Aaron.
Yeah.
Kelly had a dinner, Kaylin had a dinner. You guys both said you had a dinner, right?
I had to chat with my sister,
I guess
who I
I
only get to
probably
talk
could've been
to
here.
twice a year.
It would have been a meager showing, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Anyway, so the next step is just accepting the fact that you got rejected. It's important to try and accept that rejection as quickly as possible. And so I know I haven't actually sent out any queries yet, and so I haven't experienced like agent rejection or reviewer rejection since I don't have a book out. But I know like sometimes it's kind of hard going into my critique group or sending out my work to anyone. I have to like gird myself up beforehand. Even like the second I hit send, I have to be like, they could hate this, and that's okay.
I wrote a blog post on that when I was touring for Ignite, and it was, they might hate you, but that's okay. Like, you do have to know people, you're not going to be universally liked, either by agents or readers, or even family and friends. They might read your book and be like, oh, buddy, no. And, like, you know, take what they say as a grain of salt if you don't value their literary opinion of you. But it sucks to hear people, anyone really. I don't like being told that I've done something wrong. It's like my worst nightmare. I like to be right. I describe myself as being right and loving animals. That's like my two stuff. And candy. I mean, those are like, that's Erica. She likes dogs, she likes candy, and she's right. The end. So when someone's
Erica,
like,
you and I were meant to be friends. That's me as well. Candy dogs.
Perfect.
Being correct.
Like even when it didn't come to my writing, if it was like in school and I was wrong, I would just sit there and be like, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was rejected. This is bad. Like failing a test was no. Like it's a hard thing to deal with, especially for some people who just like, failure is my worst nightmare. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm fine. I mean, I'm not fine with dying, but I don't have a fear over it. I have a fear over failure. I have a fear over failure, and rejection is like the first step in my eyes of like the downward spiral that could be failure.
Yeah, rejection and failure. So those are the things that like keep me up at night as I relive them.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Like, remember that time I messed up? Remember that note that just said this is
or
awful?
said something really stupid, and yeah. Anyways.
I mean, like, I have a bunch of communications classes and creative writing workshops coming up, and I just finished one, and when I would get peer-reviewed, it's hard to take that, even though it's not a rejection, they're critiquing you. It's just like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and it's maybe you do. Maybe I need to listen. It takes like a day to realize, like, I failed. I need to try again.
Well, I wouldn't call that failing. That's
you're
never gonna please everybody. And I think that's also where the thick skin comes in, kind of pivoting off that a bit. But also, like when it comes to beta reader criticisms and stuff, sometimes they're not going to be right, and you have to be like, don't be so afraid of criticism that you forget your own opinion. That just because they hate something, that they're just one opinion. So don't let that fear of criticism crush your own voice as well, because that's been a big thing for me. That okay, well they hate it, so I must be wrong.
And I think sometimes too, it's easy to take it to that next step, which is like, they hate it, so I must suck.
Yeah,
Everything at living, not living.
And then that's like the next step in the article is like
really
not taking it personally and not being like, this agent didn't like my book, so they don't like me, you know?
Yeah, so they're never going to want any of my work.
And it's hard to separate yourself.
Yeah, because like this list we're working off isn't like writing specific. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, and writing it's so personal. Yeah. But at the same time, like you said, it doesn't mean they're not going to like anything you write ever. Yeah. It's just they don't want this right now.
And sometimes it's not about you, it's about the agent, maybe, that they're not looking for that type of book, or that's just not their kind of thing that they want to do, you know? It might actually be personal to them, not to you.
Yeah,
that's a really good example of this. Okay. Veronica Roth met her agent at a conference before she was her agent, Joanna Volpe. I hope I'm saying that right. Met the agent at a conference, queried her manuscript to that agent later, and the manuscript was like, or the agent was like, I really like you, but this manuscript isn't for me. Please send me anything you have in the future. And she sent her second manuscript, Divergent, later, and it worked. And she wanted to represent her, and now she's crazy famous.
And it can also be like going off of the personal taste thing. Megan mentioned in the pre-chat that she recommended The Diviners to one of her friends, a book that like all the WordNerds really, really enjoyed. And her friend ended up, not really enjoying it because it was a bit different than what she expected. So reader expectations may be off. And that might result in a lower rating of your book once you get to that review stage of like, they gave it 3 stars, and then you read the review and you're like, oh, they thought it was this? No, it's different. It might not be that they hated the writing, but they just didn't sign up for that story.
It didn't resonate with them. And I think that's something that's really beautiful about writing, is that different things can resonate with people in different ways. And so I might write something that I think is beautiful because of one thing, but it might completely resonate with another person differently.
We've got a few comments. We've got people. Hello, people.
People! They're my favorite kind of people.
Yeah.
Hey, Kayla. Kayla, I'm sorry. I know one of those is maybe your pronunciation of your name. I apologize. She says, hello, WordNerds. We're all beautiful, and we are her inspiration. You're our inspiration. Mystery Girl, too, and she says, hello. And Taylor says, her family and friends often don't understand when she runs her writing by them, and then they say it's good without looking at it or explaining why they liked it. So they put her in this bubble where they're told the writing is good, and then she goes out into the real world and people criticize. That is actually a good point, because if you share writing with your family, more times than not, hopefully, they'll be like, it's amazing, everything you do is brilliant, because they're your family, And unless they're like me, who's like, it's good, but who always needs to nitpick and critique, they'll not give you that critique unless you specifically sit down and ask them to tear it apart, and they probably still won't do it.
Yeah, even then, like, not everyone has that mindset of, nitpicking.
And that's why it's really important to have writer friends. What I like to do is I like to have my writing group look at my work, and they can tell me a writer's perspective. But I also like to have my husband, who's not a writer, look at it, just because it feels good to have someone read your work and be like, I love this, but also because he will tell me, like, this felt a little bit weird to me, and even though he can't necessarily say, it's because your character arc is missing something, he can look at it and be like, this is missing something, and then I can ask someone else who is a writer, like, hey, can you please tell me, a reader who's not a writer felt like this was missing something. Can you tell me a little more in depth? Look out for this. What is it missing?
Because there are a lot of readers who are just reading for fun, and they don't know, like, oh, this isn't following this structure of plotting, and this is off, and, like, they are reading just to read, and if you only run it by writing friends, they might only focus on the writing things and miss, like, simpler things because you're focused on like the bigger stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting because, like, I run a NetGalley co-op, so a bunch of independent authors go up onto NetGalley, which is a review-getting site, blah, blah, blah. And some of our authors will have trouble because they end up with a lot of harsher reviews than what they're used to because they're just putting it up on Amazon, they're just getting readers, whereas NetGalley are getting a lot of bloggers who are going to critically look at your writing. So they're getting harsher reviews than they're used to because it's a different audience and it's people who are specifically, they're reading your book critically and
That's their job.
Yeah. So they're not just going to say, oh, I loved it and give you 5 stars. And that's when you really do have to look at maybe some of what they're saying is right. Because if it's people who have spent years and years doing reviews and reading books in your same genre and looking for what they love and what maybe isn't working, maybe it's worth listening to.
Yeah. Definitely.
But again, it's something hard to see, especially because NetGalley reviews are usually sent to your email. So get that email and be like, NetGalley review, and you're like, NetGalley review! And then you read it and you're like, oh no, we didn't like it. And you just kind of sit there and you read it and you're like, why? Why? And then you're like, I'll do better next time, I promise you. So that's, yeah. NetGalley is a site that's like great and sad sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's where, like, yeah, exactly. For most of the time, like, I know Erica's, most of her reviews have been fantastic, and then there's a couple who don't like it. It's those ones that, when they're getting negative review after negative review after negative review,
that is tough.
Yeah, that they're starting to struggle with, maybe I didn't want bloggers to read my book, which...
Of course you do.
Yeah. Even the negative reviews will draw in more readers than not getting any reviews.
Yeah, if bloggers don't read your book, they can't tell anyone about your book.
Even if it's negative, someone might hear and be like, but I would like that. Like, sometimes you like a little cheese in your story. I love cheese. Sorry, we're out of cheese here, and I'm
literal
in despair.
cheese.
I'm in despair. We're lacking cheese.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I would be getting more cheese if I were in that situation.
And I put sprinkle cheese on my sandwich, and a potato chip, and then turkey, more sprinkle cheese, and the bread. I wouldn't recommend it. But it was fine. Enough.
If we don't, do we have any related comments, or should we move on to the next?
We can move on, but I did pronounce Kayla's name right, so.
Hello.
One of those 5 times.
Million angels.
Yeah, one of those 5 times. It was correct.
It was.
Kayla. She spelled it out for us.
So, in dealing with kind of shorter-term rejection, which is kind of the phase we're in the article, and it'll move on to talk more about really long-term rejection, which I'm really excited to talk about. But kind of the last step is to do something else, because if you are focusing only on reviews or only on the things that your writing group, critique group, beta readers say, it's going to be really hard to move past it. And I would take it one step further and not just say, like, don't just do something else. Don't just go out and rollerblade or whatever. Like, do something for somebody else. Because it is so easy to not think of your own problems when you're helping someone else deal with theirs. So make dinner for someone or find a charity and volunteer with them, because that is 100% the best way I could ever recommend you get over your own rejection.
Definitely, and I kind of made my video sort of about this, with mostly about inspiration getting stuck. Sometimes you do just have to get out of your own head, or you're going to just start dwelling on it, and it's going to be impossible to turn off that internal editor, which is already like a real pain in the ass to turn off to begin with. But then when you have these like rejections hanging over you, and your email dings, and it's an email from a literary agent that says, sorry, but no thanks, we're not interested. Like,
or worse, a form rejection.
Those are just, those are painful to get, because it's like, did you even read it? But yeah, get out of your head, do something, anything else, even if it's like writing on paper. Like, you still want to write, but you need to close your computer and step away. Write on paper, write in a notebook, write something different in a different genre, or poetry, or go hit a baseball bat on something that's not not going to get you in trouble.
And that same like writing vein of like not like once you're kind of ready to slowly ease back into it, I find beta reading's really good. Of like you're getting back into that critical mindset and into the world of books that you love, but without really having to face your own stuff quite yet.
Yeah.
Or even just reading favorite books of like stuff you know you love and that make you want to write is a big one as well.
Yeah, especially if they're your favorite books. Because I was gonna say one of my things is that after getting like a rejection, yeah, you're gonna not write for like maybe a day or two, but I find that it's a lot harder for me to get back into reading after that, because you're reading something that's obviously been published and has been accepted, and you're like, well, aren't you fancy? Like,
I hate you and you and you and you.
So it's a little bit harder for me to get back into like the reading mode, but I would definitely say that beta reading is the best way for me to start going. And not only am I picking up reading again, but you got that critical eye going, your imagination is flowing, helping someone else out again, helping someone. So
I also think when you're in that critical trench of either editing your own work or editing other people's work, it's easier, at least for me, to accept criticism. Because I'm like, yeah, I noticed that too. I'm working through it and I'm reading. I'm like, oh, miss this and this is wrong and this needs to be fixed and this needs to be rearranged and the pacing's off and the voice is like, if I'm already criticizing myself, I accept other people's less harshly because I'm like, I totally agree. This needs a lot of work. So I keep sometimes not stepping away helps me actually, like just plowing through it and ignoring the negative minds, or going back and reading something good that a blogger wrote about you or your writing, or like reading a good review that I got even after I've read like 5 bad reviews. I just go back to that one good review. I'm like, see, this person liked it. I'll just write the next book for them only. It'll be just for them, and they'll get their own special book. And keep those good reviews or good comments from friends or family in mind. And sometimes it's easier to be like, they don't know what they're talking about. They're crazy.
I totally agree. I love beta reading my friends' work because I respect them so much as writers and I know how skilled they are. And for a lot of them, I know how beautiful their work looks when it's in like the final draft and it's out in the world. And so when I'm beta reading their stuff and I'm like, oh, hey, look, I'm helping them. Like, I'm contributing to making their work better. It makes it easier for me to recognize, like, oh, like, my work will look as beautiful as theirs when it's at that point.
We've got a comment here from Dana, who, by the way, is our new Patrick Press intern, and she's going to be so awesome.
She is. I'm so
excited.
excited.
Dana. We're really excited to have you here on the WordNerds and with Patrick Press. But she said, she's a book blogger, by the way. She said, there are a lot of book bloggers who are very harsh in a not-so-polite way. Even if I'm not a fan of the book, there's always positive in there. And see, those are good reviews. Even when they're like, this needs work, if you just be like, but this was, slide that in, this was nice.
Yeah.
And that's the same. You can do that in beta reading as well, that, be aware of other people's figure of criticism, that even if you're hating it, find those, little things to kind of ease them in a little bit too. Hearing what you have to say.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Kelly and I don't really soften the blows of our criticism because we're like, we don't need to dance around this. Here's what's but like,
when you get comfortable with someone,
and we'll still comment of like, oh no, is this gonna happen? And like we'll make guesses and like we're sitting down reading it next to each other, so that it's not just criticism. It's like us reacting to the book also. Yeah. So even though we're not like, oh, this is nice. Like, we might have something that's like, love this, but, it's not like over the top, like, oh, I had to search really hard to find something nice to say about this.
Yeah, and I think, like, when you're getting rejection, when you're getting criticism from readers, like, it's good to be able to recognize that, because I feel like the people who are a little bit nicer about their criticism tend to give better criticism as well. Because I know on like Goodreads, you'll see some people who like you'll see them consistently on like multiple YA books reviewing it, and you can tell that they've kind of just gotten like popular with their reviews because they're so mean about things and like so sarcastic about everything. Those like aren't good criticisms because you can tell they're just like being sarcastic about it, And so you need to be able to like recognize who are just like the reviewers who just like like to watch the world burn, you know, and who are the ones who are actually giving good advice and want you to be better.
Have you guys ever read Cover Snark?
I think I have, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
They have like a lot of like covers.
Yeah,
and
I like her blog. Like every week, she does a rundown of the new covers that were released. I'm pretty sure all of my books have been listed on there. I'm pretty sure some of Erica's, definitely one she's designed.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the designs have been up there.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. Should I be scared?
I'm pretty sure she liked.
No, it was good. It was positive. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't really remember, but she hated my original Beautiful Madness cover. I'm like, I like it, whatever. But yeah, so I do enjoy.
Excitement.
I like her. I've worked with her on a couple of things, but she does. She has a. It's called Cover Snark. She gets a reputation because she's snarky, and sometimes that is like harshly criticizing these covers, and like a lot of them are really awful self-published covers, but some of them aren't, and some of them I really disagree with her on. But yeah, she gets reviews by being snarky.
I'm looking it up.
Mm-hmm. And I think you have to like know how to pace yourself when it's your own work that's out there. Like if you know you can't handle snarkiness about your stuff, then don't look at those websites. Like block them on your computer if you're afraid it's going to be a temptation. Just don't.
Yeah, like a lot of authors have a no Goodreads policy, which I don't really agree with. Criticism, you need it sometimes, but some of them, if you know yourself and you know you can't take it, don't. That you'll get your feedback elsewhere that you don't need to get it from random strangers who may or may not, you know, phrase it.
And we mean that about reviews, not about beta readers, because you need beta readers a lot.
You absolutely
you need lots of beta readers.
It can be hard to find good beta readers, but
yeah, that's the trick. It's finding one who will give you enough like content to work with, because there's some beta readers who like, I'd love to read and give you feedback, and they're just like, it's great. Like,
yeah, add a comma here. Like,
be specific.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Arenda.
That's the one that I saw.
She doesn't like the fonts, but the dress and the photo. I like the font. That's okay. It's not everybody's taste. I just like because it's got a sword in the R. And that's what I was told. But it has swords in the book, and I'm like, swords!
Sword! Yes!
Alright, so any more comments, or is Erica busy snarking now?
Oh, I'm good. Comments. Taylor said, don't read classic books that have been around for centuries after Rejection, specifically Shakespeare. Yeah, sometimes I do that because I'm like, this is so beautiful. Why can't I be Fitzgerald?
I just want to be beautiful. Like
I just want to write pretty, pretty words. Why can't I? And it's just, yeah, it goes nowhere in a circle. Sometimes it's fun in a very painful way.
Yeah. So the next thing that let me make me big. The next thing it goes on to talk about is kind of rejection in the long term. So this is something that's like super near and dear to my heart. But I was also wondering like if any of you have like experienced long-term rejection. Like I know Erica, you queried for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was wondering if any of you could also share your experiences of dealing with rejection in the long term when it feels like it's just over and over and over again.
I know I've mentioned this before, but for me the big one oh crap. So it's been about a year since I published the first Beautiful Madness novella. And I had meant to like get all 5 of those out right away. They were all pretty short, but a lot of the criticism I was hearing was about them being novellas, that people were expecting a full novel. Yeah, and I got that again and again, and it just like, well, people aren't getting what I'm trying to do with this. Why am I bothering? So I spent so much time trying to like rework, well, can I turn that first one into a novel? Or like I'm still struggling with it a bit, that it really made me keep overthinking the whole strategy for that series, that I need to kind of reboot and figure out exactly what I want to do. Now I have some fancy new covers, so that should help. But so yeah, that's what I'm still kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you getting those comments, and I was reading them, and I'm like, it's specifically labeled a novella. Like, And I know there are some novellas that are too short because it just like stops and you're like, wait, what?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I felt like when I was beta reading, I felt like it had its arc and that wasn't a thing that should have been commented on for a novella. Like, you could wait until it's all out and get it in the omnibus if you want to read the full story at once. But, I remember being upset for you for those reviews.
Yeah.
Like, don't you know what you're reading?
Yeah, I originally set out to make it kind of episodic. So there, to me, there was a complete arc in the first story, and I still stand by that. But and I've seen a lot of other authors do the same thing, that they have shorter and then they'll release the whole series. But it's just the way it was received, and overall the stories were getting great reviews. It's just that one thing was eating away at me, and I'll get there.
Well, I think that you bring up a good point, though. When you get criticism like that, like, you do question yourself, but you have to stand by what you did. Like, you did this for a reason. It's going to work when people see it together. They're like, I get it now. Some people obviously don't. Some people did, and they're like, I like this story. It's fine. It's fine. They said, I like this story, and, it's not too short, but you do have to stand your ground when you get to some kind of critiques that you might hear over and over again. I'm trying to think of anything that I heard specifically with Ignite. The only thing I remember being really, really upset with in Ignite was I did get one-star review that stood out. And I think it's my only one-star review. Yeah, right now it's my only one-star review on Goodreads. Don't go add more, please. I'm not complaining, there's only one. But I remember reading it and getting very despondent over despondent might not be the word, enraged, a little miffed maybe. I just remember reading the comment, and the main, it was a did not finish review, and I was so bugged because I have certain opinions about DNF reviews, and I was just reading, I was like, no, if you had gotten past, the things you're complaining about were done with purpose, and, the one critique was, she's a demon, how does she know CPR? And I'm like, that's a problem. I was like, wait, but she's a person who also, a demon who also reads, everything and has been around forever, so I'm making a slight joke, because I started thinking about, do people think that demons can only do certain things? So in the next book, I'm making a specific joke to kind of bring out that, the upset that I had over someone thinking that a demon wouldn't be able to do this or that by an angel saying, I'm an angel, not an idiot. I see and learn things too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can really remember. That and just getting a lot of rejections over literary agents saying, the writing's good, but I have something similar to it on my list. Or the writing's good, but the market is saturated. And that's a really tough thing here.
It's out of your control, completely.
Yeah, it sucks because it's it's not you, it's me. It's the market. Yeah, it's not even the
It's not you, it's everybody else on the planet, sorry.
And I can get publishing trends, I'm studying them, and I get that you do have to follow trends to be successful, but I'm also you could start, by the time, if I went traditional, by the time it would have been published, that trend might be coming back. It might be on the cusp of returning again, which trends are cyclical, in my opinion.
And agents are always trying to guess what the next big thing is, but who would have seen, 50 Shades coming, or Twilight even?
Right.
You just never know what's going to send off. And both of those books inspired so many, rip-off series of trying to cash in on the
because of Twilight.
I mean, the Hunger Games took off, and then you have sudden, dystopia everywhere, and it's
or,
just, you
Fire
would
and
think,
Blood, which I've heard is really similar.
yeah, you would think, as a writer, you hold publishing in such high esteem that you're good books will be published. No matter what the market says, if you write well, it's going to get out there. And it's sometimes it won't. There's a lot of crappy books that are published, but they're on market trends, and they make a lot of money, and they become blockbusters, and they're not great. And then, the good books can get overlooked, and you don't want to let them die, so do something with them.
And I don't have a precise, exact example for writing, but up to this point, I had been unemployed for 9 months, and I got a bachelor's degree with a really relevant minor. My minor was teaching English as a second language, and I live in Southern California, And so it's like, well, of course people need to learn English there. And so it was another one of those, like, it's not you, it's all the other employers in the world. And it, like, super sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling, and it's really hard not to get depressed about it and not to think like, oh, well, it must be me. Especially if you're on your second or third manuscript and you're still querying. It's really easy to be like, well, it must be me.
Yeah.
But it's not you. And I don't have a book deal yet, but I did get a job, and I waited a really, really, really long time to get it.
Yay!
But I did that waiting, and it turned out to be something that's, like, perfect for me. So I know we're focusing mostly on the rejection today, but
it shows like if you
do your waiting, it'll be okay. Keep working hard.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Keep focusing on that.
Yeah.
And it's hard, like, when people say that to me when I'm getting rejected, I'm like, you shut up. You don't know what it's like down here. It is dark and dry. You're like, it's going to get better. And you're like, you don't know me. You know, more times than not, it does get better. It can only get so much worse. And then you hit the bottom, and then it's like, nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. But it's hard because it's like you've hit the bottom, but you don't actually realize that you've hit the bottom. It still feels like you're always going to be falling until suddenly you, like, look down and realize you've been going up.
So inspirational. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
We need, like, a rainbow.
Yeah. Or, like, a chime sound. Like, ding, 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 ding.
Hold on. You keep talking. I'll look for one.
Oh, no.
Rejection sucks. You'll be rejected. It happens.
It gets better.
It gets better.
Oh!
You all get better, I promise. You just have to keep working and you can do it. It's sad for a while. But it'll get better. We should do these more often.
We really should. You missed the sound effects.
Oh no! Hope you had to see it. I had to.
It's okay. That's been happening. Welcome to our live chat if you're just joining us. I don't have an explanation for it.
That sounds like sometimes.
It's exactly what the post chat said.
I've lost my train of thought now.
I did too.
I got so worked up. Do we have comments?
I don't think so last I checked. Hold on. Refresh. Mostly just comments about books, saying that they like it.
Yay!
Hooray!
Alright, where were we on our list?
We're talking about long-term rejection. So these are very similar to our first steps, but more long-term, obviously.
Well, one of them on the list is knowing when to quit. So,
yeah, and I
So
think
that's the question. Do you think you'd ever reach a point where you've had so much rejection that you'd be like, maybe I need to move on?
I did. I did, actually. Someone offered me, I detailed this really extensively on my blog, but someone offered me a job and then called me up 3 days later and took back the job offer.
I remember that.
For pseudo-religious reasons, which was really frustrating to me. And I had to, like, take a moment and take a step back and realize that all of the applying for jobs or relating it to writing, all of the querying or all of the beta readers, it was really taking a toll on my mental health. And I wasn't giving myself time to deal with the rejection, and I wasn't giving myself time to take care of me. I was just so focused on, okay, let's move on, okay, next thing, okay, next thing. It's okay, I'm getting rejected, but I'll find someone eventually. And when that happened and everything just kind of came crashing down, it was like, I can't do this. It doesn't matter that I'm not making any money right now. It's not good for me. And that was when I called it quits for a little while and had to like take a break, and I just focused on writing for a long time. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made because it helped me out mentally so much. And so I think if you're finding that your health, particularly your mental health, is being affected, I think you need to stop and take a breather and take care of yourself and work things out before you get back on the horse.
Definitely.
I also think it's like important to realize that like quitting doesn't necessarily mean like quitting up on writing altogether and just being like, I'm just not going to write because no one likes it and I'm never going to get published. But maybe just like choosing a different path, doing something different. Maybe it's that you need to like work on a different book. Maybe just that book is not the right book for you to publish. Like we were talking about Veronica Roth, like the first book that her agent was looking at, like it just wasn't going to work. And so she was like, give me something else you're working on. And that book ended up being, you know, bestseller. And so like, or maybe it's that you need to do like Erica did and decide to do self-publishing
Find a route
instead of
that's
traditional
better for
publishing
you.
because that's going to be better for her.
Yeah.
And so like, it might not be quitting writing, but just quitting
Finding
like,
a
the
different
specific thing
way.
you're trying to do, or moving on to a different agent, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also this time when you do keep your head down when you're just pushing through things for so long that eventually you hit that wall and you kind of look up and you're like, how did I get stuck back here? Like, this is an extreme example. Again, not specific to writing, but in high school, I was really, really, really sick. Like, I missed most of my junior year, and I ended up actually dropping out February my junior year of high school because the guidance counselor brought me into school and said, you're pulling down our attendance rating, and it's bumming us out. And I'm like,
Thanks.
So what am I going to do? And she said, you can either repeat high school, or the year, and try again, or you could drop out. And she's kind of like, maybe you should drop out. So I ended up being so frustrated because I was really sick with stomach stuff, heart stuff. Like, I've explained this to Kelly. My heart does this thing where sometimes it stops for a little bit, and then it's like, I'm back, just kidding, which sucks. But I was so sick that I was like, I don't see myself ever getting better. How am I ever going to make it through school? I'm not going to be able to repeat the year. If I'm still sick next year, it'll just be like, keep repeating 11th grade until I'm 50. Great. So I ended up dropping out of school, and I was going to get my GED, but I was just so upset about, in my eyes, failing at high school, and then eventually at college, because there goes my future. If I don't graduate from high school, I can't go to college, I can't get a real job, I'll live on the street, and it just spiraled from there. But eventually I looked into some other things, and I ended up getting my high school degree online, and I graduated second in my class, and I finished my junior and senior year in 6 months. So I graduated on time with honors, and then I went into college immediately on time, and I was really excited about that because I wasn't going to lose anything from the people who were my age. I wasn't going to miss out on like the big life milestones, and it's just sometimes you do have to take that break and kind of step back, and like, it was for my health. I needed to not go to school and die in each class, and it sucked to have to drop out of school because I super am all about academics. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm like obsessed with school and studying and learning. But getting that distance from it and then being able to go back and really like attack it in a way that I could because of my health online, it made it so much better for me. And it kind of helped and was beneficial for me because I wasn't killing myself in school, and I was finding a way to do it my way and a better way. Kind of like when I decided to go self-publishing instead of traditional route. When I learned what self-publishing really was, I was like, this is it. This is where it's at for me. This can be my career. Bit of an extreme example, but...
Yeah. So yeah, know yourself and know what your limits really are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the only way that I would take rejection to the point of quitting is, like, if I were to reach the actual being published stage and just the reviews for the book that were coming in were just completely insane to where it wasn't fun anymore. Like, I know, bringing back Veronica Roth, where before she actually finished Allegiant, like, she went away from the internet for a little while and, like, didn't check a lot of things. Or no, it was after Allegiant, I think.
Yeah. And before,
I think it was right after Insurgent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just
My
like all of the
teacher
pressure, and I think if it ever got too heavy, I don't think I would quit for good, but it would definitely be a time for me to step back and reassess things and do things that actually made me happy, because at that point, being constantly berated with all of these like harsh reviews, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah,
but
if you're hating it,
you don't have to quit forever.
Yeah. If you're hating it, I don't think there's any reason you should keep going. Like, once something's lost what you loved about it, like, especially with writing is something that you're supposed to love. Like, it's tough and it's brutal and it's full of rejection and pain and just keyboard.
But it's fun, we swear.
But it's so much fun, and, like, I accept the pain because, to me, it's, like, the fun kind of pain because I love what I'm doing. And, yeah, I'm terrified about how am I going to afford to live as a writer. Can I afford to live as a writer? But, I'd rather have that stress. Yeah, I'd rather have that stress than do something I hate,
Yeah. And I would say, though, that if you ever suspect that you're dealing with something like depression, don't quit altogether, because just because you don't like something when you're depressed does not mean that suddenly you don't like it. You don't like anything when you're depressed. And so don't quit everything if you suspect that it is like a mental thing that you're dealing with or struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
So on a smaller scale with knowing when to quit, when do you shelve a manuscript and say, okay, this isn't the one right now? That you've either getting beta feedback or just agent after agent doesn't want it. When do you say, okay, I have to put this one away. I need to stop rewriting it for a little while and try something new? When is that breaking point?
That's a tough question because, you don't want to put the first draft out and be like, oh, no one likes it, let's move on. Like, you have to try and fix it a few times and see, like, if you can fix it. That's, like, part of the fun for me. It's like, okay, well, this part is broken. Let me try and mend it together in a way that works and then put it back out there. But to shelve it entirely...
But, again, the Veronica Roth thing, that sometimes it's just not that book's time, or there's some fundamental flaw that you're not seeing, that the story isn't working. That I struggle with it, too, that, like, once you put in that much effort, I don't want to...
Right. I'm the same way. I'm just going to keep hitting my head against it until something works. Like, I'll probably fall down a million times, but I'll keep getting up and be like, this is going to be it. This will be the time that I fix it.
Mm-hmm. I am similar in that I never really stop thinking. I don't have like dozens of manuscripts that I've written. I only have 3 or 4 like full manuscripts. Mm-hmm. And so for me, there's some that I've put away for a while because I don't love it. And it's not like I'm mad at it right now sort of thing. It's like a complete disinterest. And if I'm completely disinterested, I'm not going to give it the quality work it deserves, and so I put it away. But I'm almost always still thinking about it a little bit, or I have like an idea and I'm like, oh, that would fit great in this. I'll put this in my little Scrivener note file for when I go back and edit it more.
I think that's the right answer, too, that like shelving manuscript isn't necessarily saying goodbye forever. It's saying,
I
need to it's on a shelf.
It. Don't delete anything that you write.
Never.
Just because you're not working on it anymore, do not delete it permanently off of anything. You always want to have it backed up, because I think we said it in one of our other chats, is you never know when you're writing a book and you're like, that first plot line kind of fits with this, so I could kind of like steal from that and put into here. And you're still going to have it even if you wrote it 3 years ago. Don't delete anything. Pro tip.
Plus, it's also just like, it's fun to look back and be like, oh, remember when I thought this was the best? Like, I read a story I wrote in 5th grade that was an assignment. We had to rewrite a classic fairy tale through a different, like an animal's point of view. So I rewrote Sleeping Beauty Under the Sea, and it was beautiful. I mean, it's like terrible, but it was beautiful, and I remember being so excited about that, and we read it in front of class, and my teacher liked it, and was like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, and I love going back and reading our old fan fiction that is still under super secret lock and key locked up usernames on fanfiction.net. We will never reveal what they are, but they are there, and we read them, and it is amazing.
They're hilarious.
I read like once every few months just to cheer me up. Like, see, at least I'm not that bad anymore.
It's good to see that you're getting better. That's why it's good to look back and you're like, wow, this is terrible, because that means what you're writing now.
It's not
so
as terrible.
And you also never know, like, just because, like, the writing might have been terrible and maybe, like, the story, like, the way you did it was terrible, like, you might be able to look back at something one day and be like, you know what, there was this one little thing that was really good.
Or this character.
Yeah, this one character was great, or this one part of the story or one concept that was great. I'm going to use that in something else.
Mm-hmm. Like, there are a few stories that I've shelved, but I haven't, like, when I wrote them, I wasn't writing them with the intent to publish, and I think that's what separates it for me. Is like, if I'm writing a book with the intent to publish, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to, like, beat it until it is perfect, even if it means completely rewriting every single word in it. I'm not going to put that down until it's something. But if I just, you know, there are books that I wrote as my practice books of, like, let's write a book for the first time ever. You know, there are some from 3rd grade that are just practice for my practice books. And then there are ones from high school that I mentioned a while ago, like my Witch's Orphanage one, that's like, that's a cool idea, but God, was it terrible.
That's one of the best forms of dealing with rejection, is just cuddling with something very soft and cute, and that will love you unconditionally always.
Yeah, get a dog. Or a giant stuffed animal or something, a fuzzy blanket.
Yeah, dogs are great.
Dogs are
Get them
better.
from your local shelters, because shelters are sad, and dogs feel sad there, and they're really inexpensive and come with shots. Yeah. Your weekly plug for the shelter. Or
Bring
breeder.
adopt disabled dogs, because they're cool too.
Too.
Oh, you can't see. He can't see anything, but he's the sweetest ever. Thank you. You're tired. Great. You're a perfect camera person. Very lively.
All right.
Do we have any last-minute comments or anything?
We just got one from Taylor. She said she stopped writing novels for a little while because she was upset about her inability to not finish a book. Now she's back, better than ever, and planning to finish.
Good for you.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's hard to, like, I dealt with that a lot in, like, college, of just, like, starting stuff and never finishing it, and then you feel like, why am I even bothering? I can't do this.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does anyone else have any specific examples of rejections they've dealt with, or?
Maybe we should do, like, final thoughts on it, like final bits of advice, if we don't have any more comments. We've been going for an hour, a little over.
No, we were late, so it's an hour.
We're always late. We're always late.
We're a chatty bunch.
Yeah, we're at like 57 minutes on the YouTube page, so
Okay.
59
So we
maybe.
still got time. We're still good. Should we do
I
final
feel like we've
thoughts?
covered a lot of territory. Like, I'm trying to think of anything
Yeah.
I haven't said yet, but, like, we kind of jumped around a bit and covered really, like, everything I thought of.
We covered literary agent rejection, publishing rejection, review rejection, beta readers or editors rejection, family/friend rejection, self-rejection. Is that all we covered? And then the steps of how to deal with it.
Yeah. So just don't let it be the thing that fuels you. I know for me, family/friend rejection is a big one that I don't encourage anyone I know in real life to read my books. So I'm like, you guys aren't my target audience. You aren't going to understand. And then I know you'll judge me based on me reading and writing teen fiction, but there are people who love this, I swear. So that's a big one for me, but I've
Don't want to get you down.
Yeah, I've tried to stop, like, actively discouraging people from reading my books. So you can't let it be the thing that keeps you from doing something you really want to do.
I think for me there are two ways to deal with rejection or criticism, and it's one, like, accept it. This is for both of the reasons, but like let it become you, and you need to think about it always, and just like, but not too much. If you think about it too much, it'll start to like eat away at you, but think about it enough that it makes an impact on your writing for the better. You know, if they give you advice that is worth listening to, listen to it and apply it. Don't listen to it out of spite because you're like, well, you were mean to me, so I'm not going to take this very helpful advice because you are a rude person, sir. Thank you. You know, accept it, listen to it, change from it for the better. And number two, if it's just like really killing you, let it fuel your hate fire. Like, write to prove people wrong. When you get a review that's like, this person is awful, be like, oh, I'll show you, and then write something amazing that has them eating their words and reading you again and be like, no, I see it now. This is great. You know, let it fuel that hate fire, because sometimes that's enough to get me through, like, when I'm just upset.
Do you have any last things, Kaylin?
We pretty much covered everything, but like I'm looking at the last part of the dealing with the long-term rejection is just don't dwell on it. And while yes, definitely let it fuel your hate fire, because that is a very good channel to push all of it through. But at the same time, it's like if you're getting all of this rejection and it stops being fun, again, you can step away, but don't let, and that was another one on the list, is that you don't let it control your future. Just because it sucks now doesn't mean it's going to suck later. You can walk away, but at the same time, you're always going to have that story in your head. Because even on days where I'm like, you know, I can't do this, I suck, I'm never going to be able to finish it, you're always thinking about your characters. You're always thinking about different ways to have them interact. So if one form of rejection, just, do something else. Take your mind off of it.
Yeah. I also always like to remember that, like, your rejections at this stage can be part of, like, your epic success story later. That it's so cool to hear about how many, like, people rejected Harry Potter, and then you're like, wow.
The stack of, like, rejections that she got.
So it could end up just being one very small chapter in your very long writing career.
Yeah.
And take all the criticism with a grain of salt as well. Because even though they're giving you something saying that basically that your manuscript is broken, that you need to fix it, that doesn't necessarily mean they're being mean. Because I was a part of an online community a little while ago, and I dabble in it every once in a while, but there were people on there who just didn't know how to take even comments of grammar. Like, you were obviously very wrong. This piece of grammar does not go there. But they took it very personally, and you just can't let it do that, because especially when you're in a writing group or on a writing website, there are going to be the trolls that are there that just want to make you feel upset, but genuinely, people are there to help you and make you a better writer and help you see how to do things, and not everybody just wants to fuel your hate fire.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody wants to see anyone fail. Like, no one picks up a book and thinks, I hope this is terrible. And nobody, no writer's like, oh, I hope their career suffers so mine, flourishes. Because that's, like, while all of the authors are in the same marketplace, you're not directly competing with these people. Sure, for, like, the top bestsellers and stuff, but just because somebody buys their book doesn't mean they won't buy your book. Like, I've never known someone who's only bought one book in their entire life. They buy more books.
Yeah, like, no thanks, I already read one book about vampires, I'm good.
I'm done forever. Goodbye.
Especially in YA, I think, like, those people who read just one book, it's going to be like James Patterson or something, but YA, once you start, you're in.
All right. Do you have final words, Emma?
Of course. I just think it's important, like, to, like, give yourself that time to, like, deal with the rejection and, like, grieve over it and accept it, but then you have to, like, figure out what you can learn from it and move on with it, because if you let yourself just wallow in the rejection forever, you're definitely not going to achieve your dreams, and you're definitely going to fail if you don't do anything and if you don't learn from it.
Agreed. Rejection is the pits, but you're not a real author if you haven't been rejected, and I know we all want to be real authors. So, gonna be okay.
You can do it, kid. Keep your chin up. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Shine bright like a diamond.
So, next week we will be doing our live book chat. We're talking about Throne of Glass, which is an amazing book.
Why is it
It's
backwards?
so
Yeah.
good, you guys.
Kaylin's
I
got
haven't
it.
started yet. I'm gonna
Oh,
start
read
it tomorrow. I'm finishing reading Point now, so.
Yeah.
I won't be
fast
there
read.
next week, so I'm sorry I
Boo.
won't be. I mean, like, if everything ends early, I might be able to sneak on, but yeah, I won't be there, but I will be talking about my review on my blog, and Kelly will bring it up in the chat, but I loved it.
I'll try to channel Erica next week.
Yeah,
You
she'll
can
be here. Yeah, she'll be here in
Yeah,
blog.
please.
Because I haven't read Throne of Glass. I've read it twice, but it's been a while, so I'll need that
Mhm.
refresher anyway.
It's a great book, and it's a really fast read, so if you haven't read it yet, definitely pick it up from your local bookstore or from your library. It's been out for a little while, so you could probably get it at your library. So you have no excuse.
It's a really good book with a cool main character, and some of the names are hard to pronounce.
Yeah, she has a pronunciation guide on her website.
Also in the back of the book. That's a tip
Yeah.
that I should have known before I started reading, because I'm just like, grr, grr, grr.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the back.
And she's an awesome author. If you tweet at her how much you loved her book, she usually retweets it or tweets back to you.
To me.
So, it's awesome. We'll talk about it next week.
Yes, it's very pretty. They have pretty chapter headers too.
Yes, the
Just
inside
like,
is beautiful.
The formatting is enough of a reason to get the book.
I
Yes.
have it on ebook, sadly, so I don't get the formatting.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so you have a
this
girl
couch.
on the cover who is not wearing a prom dress this time. She actually has some
She's
big-
holding blades.
I have the prom dress cover.
Yeah.
Although she does have
She
like
wears a lot of prom dresses.
Yeah, she
wears
is
a
a
lot
girly girl.
big dresses. I love that though, because she could like kill you in a second, but she looks awesome and pretty. I'm like, juxtapose that image.
Right, but that's proof that you don't have to have the big gown on the cover, though. You can look
Yeah.
completely badass on the cover and still wear pretty dresses.
Fact.
Go read the book though.
If you haven't subscribed to us yet, you should totally do that because we are so close to 500, and we also
We're like
do
6
daily
away from
videos.
We're going to have a party once we hit 500.
Yeah,
We're gonna have a party anyway, but you know.
the first week of June. That's
We'd
what
like to be able to
I said,
coordinate
it'd be a
it.
Party. If you guys have any party suggestions, it might be a pajama party. Who knows?
Yes,
Totally
I will be wearing my
We like
pajamas,
pajamas.
whether or not you guys are in your pajamas.
I'll wear my Adventure Time onesie just for you.
I'll wear
We
my
need fun pajamas.
I know, I need fun pajamas. I have pajama pants, but
Go
So I'll
shopping.
ask for my birthday.
my shirts
I'm
are just
getting
my
fun
regular
pajamas.
shirts.
All right. Well, we will see you tomorrow, Word Nerds, because you'll be tuning in tomorrow to see Emma, right?
I haven't made that yet.
You will. You will watch it.
And then I will remember to do mine this week. 'Cause,
Yeah.
this week was a forgetful week for.
We will all do
Yeah.
Yes.
videos.
Is Erin doing a video this week? I don't know how long she's away for.
She has Saturdays, so I think she'll be good.
Yeah, she should
Okay.
be back. Anyway, we'll see you then. Thanks
Okay,
for tuning in,
bye,
Word
guys.
Nerds. Bye.